Welcome to Math on the Fritz with Mr. Fitz, and you're going to notice this week that the problems got a little bit more involved. We are still going to be graphing inequalities, but this time there's going to be some numbers around x that you have to get rid of. It's not going to be by itself. The good news is we don't have to do a ton of steps here to get it by itself. We have a plus 6 we have to get rid of and a divided by 9. Depending on what you like to do, some students like to just get rid of that 9 first by multiplying everything by 9. I think that's a pretty good idea. I would like to do that myself. So seeing that there's a 9 in the bottom, I'm going to multiply everything by 9. 5 times 9 is 45. I still have greater than. The 9's gone off the bottom. And then 6 times 9 is 54. So once we do that one step, we can see that our problem got a lot simpler. Now I'll have to subtract 54 from both sides. Maybe I'll change colors on that one. No, I guess I can't. So we'll leave the same color, I guess. So if I did minus 54 from both sides, that would give me negative 9. And then I almost have what I want, but x is on the right side. I want to have x on the left, so I'm just going to reflect that thing over. I don't change any signs. I'm just physically rolling it over is the way I like to think of it. And I end up with x is less than or equal to negative 9. Now when I look at this graph, I can see, well, here's negative 9, but the arrow is now going to the left. When I rolled it over, it went from pointing right to pointing left. So I would now know that the correct answer to this one should be choice D. And that's how we're going to do all of these, really. A couple steps that you have to do first to get b by itself, but then you're going to take a look and see what there is. Now keep in mind, we do have the special scenario where if I divide by a negative, I've got to remember to flip. So when I'm looking at this particular one over here, this is a good example of what's going to happen. So I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. I want to get rid of this plus 6 by using a minus 6. If I take 6 away from negative 102, it gets even more negative. So there you can see it got even more negative. But it was just addition, it's no big deal. Now I have to do a division though. I have to divide by negative 9. So if I do that, I end up with 12. Negative 108 divided by negative 9 is 12. But because I divided by a negative, I ended up flipping my inequality. Now you'll remember from last week's lesson that was something we had practiced out just as a memorization tool. Really what we're doing is adding 9b to the left, adding 108 to the right, and then dividing by 9. Now you'll notice in this particular problem, b is on the wrong side. So just like I did over here, when x was on the wrong side, I rolled it over. And we can call it a reflection, however you want to call this. So I've got to roll it over, which flips the inequality to the other direction again. So I divided by a negative, it flipped the inequality around, but then I had to reflect it and it flipped it again. So I had two inequality changes there. And when I get to my final answer, right down here, I see that it's pointing to the left. So I'm going to look for an arrow pointing to the left, starting at 12. Oh, there it is. Choice number A is an arrow pointing to the left and starting at 12. Here I have parentheses, no problem. It just means that I'm going to need a little distributive property. Always nice to bring that back. Distributive property gets a lot of use in most applications. So I'm going to go ahead and just multiply that out to see what we got left. Negative 6m minus, oh, not minus anymore. And then I want to get rid of this plus 24. I want m by itself, so let's do minus 24 to get rid of that. That'll put me at 96 over here. And then I want to get rid of the negative 6 that's attached to the m, but it's attached through multiplication. So I'm going to have to divide, and I'm going to have to divide by a negative. So 96 divided by negative 6 looks like 16. Yeah, negative 16. And because I divided by a negative, I gotta flip that thing around. That's why I like taking it one step at a time. Just do one thing, see what's next. And then just like the problems before, x was on the wrong side, b was on the wrong side, m is on the wrong side. So I'm just going to go ahead and reflect that over. No sign change, I'm just rolling the inequality. And there we are. So I should be pointing to the left from negative 16. Well, I've got two of them that say to the left from negative 16, but only one of them is actually going to the left. It looks like B is going to be the answer here because both of them had the same algebra description, but the one that's actually pointing left is B. That's why I'm going to choose B to be my answer. And then if you ever had something where the whole thing is a fraction, multiplying by 3 is going to get rid of that 3. So I don't have to actually distribute that 3 through anything. This 3 and this 3 are going to cancel. But I have to do it to both sides of the inequality. The same things that were true with an equation is true with the inequality. I'll multiply both sides. Now I have a much better shot at figuring out what I got here. I have negative 10 plus m. That's the only thing left on that side. And then on the other side I have negative 15. All we got to do is move that negative 10 with a plus. So if we add 10 to both sides, then I still have my m there. I'm adding 10, so that's going to get me to negative 5. And m is on the left. Finally, I don't have to do any reflecting there. So I want m is less than negative 5. Choice A is the choice. And that makes us happy because what we got was actually one of the lists that they had there. Now, if you look down to the bottom, you're going to see more of the same thing here. You just did distributive property, and then you're going to move a number, divide. The only thing I want to show you on this one is that you do end up getting 0, because when I multiply this out, I end up with a negative 63. And then if I try to add 63 to both sides, it looks like it wipes out completely. Which sometimes students get a little cautious when they get 0. They think that maybe they made a mistake somewhere. 0 is a pretty common thing. And there's a lot of things that people will tend to bring to 0 each week. So you get paid bi-weekly, you tend to run out of money as you're getting close to the next paycheck. And you're just kind of waiting for the next paycheck to come in. So here's the 9v. I'm adding 63 to both sides, and it brought me to 0. But this is where students make their mistake. They get that 0 there, and if this wasn't multiple choice, they just graph it with an arrow going right. But if I finish this problem the rest of the way and I divide by negative 9, it actually ends up flipping that inequality up to the left. So if you're not being careful here and you just skip that last step of dividing by the negative, you're going to end up going in the wrong direction. So we got our good answer, which we wanted, which was 0. And then I'm not really too concerned about something like number 8. I don't really think that's much of a different problem than anything else. It's like the one we did at the very top. Multiply everything by 3 and you don't have a fraction anymore. And then the ones on the bottom are just like the ones we did in number 7. You're going to start by doing a little distributive property. That's going to take care of the parentheses so you can actually start moving things the way you want to move them. So just forward thinking as I look at this problem, I recognize that I'm going to be dividing by a negative, so I know that this inequality is eventually going to flip and point left. That's why all of these answers down here are pointing left. Just wanted to kind of give you the heads up. There's a line underneath, so it needs to include the value itself. So really, I could just cross A off the list. Just looking at it, I know that's not going to be there. And we don't have to solve it out all the way. I just wanted to show you sometimes you can eliminate things rather quickly. And then an example like this, v is on the wrong side and it's going to have a negative coefficient, so I'm going to end up with the double flip. It'll be just like that problem we did up here, where I ended up flipping it when I divided by the negative and ended up flipping it again. I ended up with two flips there. So I'm guessing if I were looking at this one that it's still going to be pointing to the right. So it'll definitely be either A or C. We're not sure which one. We could plug it in to find out. But that's how you're going to do all of these problems. So good luck with this week's assignments.